Yep, it's official. This is the first live show of 2022. It will never happen again. This is the only you can only do the first time one time. There will never be another first live show of 2022. This is it. So I'm happy that all of you showed up, and I'm happy that I showed up. How's everybody doing? We are now into the, I don't know, they usually say the dog days of summer, but you got to feel like these are like the dog days of January, too. All the hype with Christmas, all the lights and music and great TV shows and movies and everything else. And then there's New Year's and, some people celebrate that pretty crazily and some people don't. And then it's just like this huge drop off back to reality. Of course, if you're like me, then also with the holidays, you look at it and it was like, boy, did I spend a lot of money on the holidays. So we'll just have to find a way to get through it. Just have to find a way. It's been happening for years and years and years and for everybody. So we will just have to find a way to persevere. Before I get started, I want to remind all of you as you are watching, give this live show a thumbs up. Make sure you do that. That helps us with the YouTube algorithms. And I have to tell you, we must be doing something right, because I know that just when I go on to YouTube myself, not even going to this channel or to the videos, everything, just the first page I get to, once in a while, unfound videos will be on that page now. So we must be doing something right. They're showing up in the algorithms, and I appreciate all of you who have liked this video, subscribed to the channel all in 2021, and let's keep doing that in 2022. So once again, give this video a thumbs up. Just get it done right now before you forget. Also, I want to bring up the super chat button there at the bottom of the chat box, kind of right there, that little gray box with a $sign. If you'd like to monetarily contribute to the program as you're watching the live show, the only time you can do that is when you are watching the live show. For all of you people who are watching the rerun, you can't do that. But for people who are live right here on January 5th at 9:04 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States, you can contribute using the super chat monetarily. As you know, we don't do advertising on this program. And there's people in the reruns are probably saying, well, I watch this and there's all sorts of ads in the reruns. That's a YouTube thing. And yes, we do get a very, very, very small piece of that, but I can tell you it is very small. So there you go. You may say, well, I watch all these other videos and programs and they don't have any ads at all. A lot of times it's because YouTube has marked those videos as being not advertise worthy because of the content. Like YouTube over the last couple of years has demonetized many, many channels for different reasons. Unfound has not been demonetized. So that's really the big difference. It's not because of some button I'm hitting or anything else when I set this live show up. So there you go. For those people watching in the rerun and seeing some ads, mostly out of my control. So super chat, Spleen Girl, that is the button. I'm going to get to you in a second. You're very generous, Spleen. Thank you. So super chat, give this video a thumbs up, and there are other ways to contribute to the program that I will talk about later. So who is in here? Valerie says, wow, I'm the first one today. She's surprising herself. Hello, Valerie. Hello, Charlotte. Jill gets a good question in that I will be answering. Karen, Kathy, good to see Kathy. Screaming, Jasmine, TD, moderator, Cherie, good to see you. Charlotte, also, you will be getting your question answered. Brian on Jury Channel. Thank you, Brian. You're very kind. Thank you. K-Dog. Kelly coming from Australia. See, I remembered this week. Australia. Kelly from Australia. Way to tune in. Hope it's beautiful down under. It gets it's summer down there. And thank you, Spleen. I do mean that button, Spleen. And you're very generous. Thank you, Spleen. I really appreciate it. And Leanne says, hello. Hello from Leanne. Well, hello, Leanne. How's Leanne doing? I'm doing great. As you know, if you've watched the live show before, you know I always start off these live shows with talking about my things going on in my personal life, not because I like to just, pour everything out there. In fact, I really consider myself to be a very private person. But I think that helps new people coming to the program, watching this live show or watching in the rerun, seeing that who I am and little things about me. I think that's even a better way to decide to watch the program and to continue to watch the program. This is who I am. There's no facade there. The way you see me here is pretty much how I am off air. And I'm not a character. I'm not playing a character here or anything else. The personality you see here is pretty much the personality you would get if you saw me in person. And I think some listeners who have met me in person, for example, maybe Dr. Telesco, I'm sure she would attest that the person that she got to know doing all these shows we've done together so far, and then meeting in person, same person. Ed Densel, same person. So, Leanne, thank you. Hello, you. Nat King. Not Nat King Cole, though. Nat King, hey, Ed, your show is always great. Thank you, Nat King. Happy 22 to you, Leanne. Hello, Elaine. Becky says introvert or extrovert. Becky, I'm a complete introvert. I know you're saying, well, Ed, you're doing the show. You do Unfound. You've been an actor and all these things. Complete introvert. Complete. Not, I don't think to the point of being weird, but very much an introvert. I like peace and quiet, and I can be a little bit of a hermit. And it doesn't bother me if I were to stay up here in my place, do work, do whatever, and not be in the same room with another human for days. Just does not, get to me at all. So certainly an introvert, Becky. Thank you for asking, though. Hello, Mary. Thank you for watching tonight. Brittany, we're all weirdos. We're all weird in our own way, Brittany. I agree. So what do I have going on? We get back to disc golf tournaments this weekend. There's a one-rounder on Friday. In fact, it means that Friday's episode will be coming out early on Friday. So I got a one-rounder at Maximo on Friday, and then I have a 3-round tournament, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday, which... and somehow within all of that, I will figure out how to make time to write the Patreon blog this weekend. Patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. If you'd like to become a continual supporter of the program, you can go to patreon.com/Unfound Podcast right now. And for any of you who have been a Patreon supporter, but maybe you found your credit card or debit card or something, of course, the expiration date, make sure you check into that. I had a listener, a supporter, just contact me about that recently. Hey, my card expired. I forgot. What do I have to do to re-sign up? And so she and I had a back and forth, and I sent her a video that's on here on YouTube about, trying to help with that. So make sure you check that. You may be a Patreon supporter, but may have got canceled because your credit card expired or something. So check into that. But yeah, I got disc golf this weekend. My attitude for 2022 is I'm just going to be happy to be there. I think that me trying to be too competitive and everything has gotten in the way of me playing well. So I'm just going to be excited to be there. Going to be excited to play on Friday, excited to play on Saturday, and not going to worry about my scores. That's going to be very difficult. That is so the opposite of how I usually handle things, but I am certainly one of those people that doesn't want to get so caught up in a process that doesn't work, but then I keep doing it. So I'm just going to choose to be excited, going to have a good peace of mind, and maybe it will all work out somehow. But Maximo, I've played well there at times. Actually, I shot one of my best rounds ever there just recently. But I've had a lot of bad rounds there too, for sure. So there you go. But it's a great course. It's supposed to be beautiful this weekend. I think it's going to be a little windy. It certainly is cooled down here in Florida. I think it was like 70 degrees, 71 degrees here today. Beautiful, but still very windy. I was out throwing a little bit today and just coincidentally ran into my brother Brian at a course. So Maximo, and then next weekend, so a week and a half from now, I'll be playing down at a town called Estero, which is like 2.5 hours south of here. I got an Airbnb down there. Once again, that's a course where I've played very well, and I've not played very well. Last year, 2 horrible rounds and a great round. We'll just have to see what happens. So, disc golf. New Year's was very low key for me. I went over to my brother's place, hung out, watched some football. My sister, her husband was there. They were there. And I came home, and I'm going to be honest with you, when it was going off, all the fireworks were going off, I was actually taking a shower because I had gone to play some disc golf until it got dark. Then I went over to my brother's, so I was still a little icky, and was there till about 11 o'clock. Drove home to here. And then I was taking a shower at like midnight when everybody was partying it up. So if you asked that question before, introvert or extrovert, Becky, I think that certainly qualifies as an introvert. But New Year's low key as usual, but it was a good time. Also, went to the eye doctor yesterday, ophthalmologist, not an optometrist. I've learned now the difference between those two. Ophthalmologist is much more of a complete, and they can do surgery and everything. Optometrist is really just about, is your eyesight good? Do you need glasses? Do you need contacts? Ophthalmologist can actually do eye surgery and all that. But I went to an ophthalmologist because of this thing that happened back on November 30th that I talked about at the time, where my brain was going. I talked about it. You can go watch that live show back from December 1st. But at 51, my eyes are pretty much perfect. Which does not, so whatever happened back then was not, did not have anything to do with my eyes. They had me read the eye chart on the wall, each eye. No problems. They even had this like little video game where you had to look at this dot, and then there would be a little shaking, and you're supposed to hit this button when you see the little part of the picture shake. I must have done well on that, and they were doing all sorts of stuff with my eyes. Great eyesight. The only thing he did say is that, hey, Delane, hey, I'm late for a very important date. Well, Delane, if it makes you feel any better, I was late by a minute tonight. So you're excused. The only thing the doctor did say, and it could be absolutely nothing, and he said not even to worry about it. Although I'm going to be going back in a month just to set a standard, is that one optic nerve is smaller or bigger than the other. And once again, we're getting to that point. It's like fractions of a millimeter or something like that. And he goes, it just could be something that's completely genetic, and it could have been that way your whole entire life. But because of that, I'm going to go back in a month and they're going to check it again. Once again, in his opinion, it's probably nothing. He goes, I would not worry about it at all, but just to get a baseline to see from now to a month from now to see if it changes at all. And reading up about that, it's not that particularly unusual. So my optic nerves are slightly different sizes, but eyes are great. It's one of those things. Maybe for those of you out there who also have good eyesight, maybe at an advanced age, that you don't even kind of need to know, go to the eye doctor to know that your eyesight is good. I know for me, just playing disc golf, being outside and being with other people, and being that the basket will be 250 feet away, 300 feet away, 350 feet away, that I just know when I play that I can see more than other people can, because I will say that, oh, that disc hit that tree way down there. And I couldn't see that. Or I'll be able to see a disc in the bushes far away, and the other players that I'm with, don't see it. And just common things when you're around other people in public, you can start to get an idea of how your eyesight compares to other people's. Now, maybe they have contacts, maybe they have glasses. That certainly helps, but you just kind of know. And then on top of everything else, how good do your eyes need to be? I mean, I don't need to be able to read something that's written on the moon. There does get to be a point where you have to start wondering, I think I can see well enough to drive and to read and everything. I don't need to have like the $6 million man eye. So, but I'd gotten my eyes tested 5 years ago, and they were good back then, and they are still right. Okay, right now. Kathy says, ophthalmologist, 25 years of residency. Myopia is inherited. Me and my two sisters had to get glasses at age 8. Kathy, it's just, I can remember being in college. Of course, this would be early 20s. And most of the guys who were friends with me that were lived in that same part of the dormitory, like my junior and senior year, most of them had to wear glasses or contacts. The way I remember, I was one of the few people, even at that time in the early 90s, early 20 somethings, one of the few people who didn't have to wear glasses, didn't have to wear contacts at all. One of the very few. And, they would have their little cases, and they'd take their contacts out at night and have to put them in the morning, and they were blind otherwise. It's just crazy. And I know that a very close friend of mine here in Florida, coincidentally, he went to the eye doctor today, and he was posting some things on Instagram about being there. And there were these big letters on the wall, and he took a picture of it. I mean, these letters are huge. He says, I can't see these without my glasses. So it's just crazy. And he's still in his 20s. So I guess, I don't know what to tell you. Even genetically, my sisters and my sister and my brothers all were wearing glasses by this time when they were my age 20 years ago. So even by that standard, my eyes are, doing well. Yeah, everybody's saying hi, Delane. Delane, you're very popular, Delane. Don't let it go to your head. Spleen says, I was just at the eyeglass store today, but couldn't make up my mind about frames. Yeah, they tend to go in and out of style, don't they, Spleen? Got to get what's trendy. In fact, I have to tell you, just within the last couple years, these sunglasses, the fashion in sunglasses, I feel like I'm in the 1980s all over again. The sunglass fashions kind of around now are what the fashion when I was in high school, it seems. So it's amazing how frames can change. There's certainly a fashion certainly a fashion item, just like dresses and pants and shoes and hairstyles and everything else. It's certainly some sort of fashion thing going on there. Delane, I lost some of my vision due to an anti-seizure medication. No reversal. Wow, Delane. Charlotte, I had a cataract removed from my left eye in 2016. It was amazing how clearly I can see now. Charlotte, yeah. In fact, I think I can say this about my sister. My sister, Diane, who's a bit older than I am, she's actually excited that she's been diagnosed, that she has a small cataract building, because that means she'll be able to get the surgery and they'll be able to correct her vision. And then she won't have to wear eyeglasses anymore. She actually saw it as a good thing that she got them, because now she's all excited about that can all be done at one time. I guess that's one way to look at it. And my dad, who's 85, up close, he needs glasses, but he had that cataract surgery and stuff done 2 years ago, and he can see far away excellent, even at 85. Valerie says, I really like the new update episode. I'm going to be talking about that in a bit, Valerie. I thank you. I have to tell you, Valerie, that the update episodes are very popular. Very, very popular. That it does seem that each of these update episodes I haven't gone back too far to look, but I just know, like, for example, the past year, the update episodes, as far as numbers go, very, very well. So I'm glad I do them. I enjoy doing them. Screaming says, I wear prescription 1970s style aviators. Look at you. Delane says, it is. I knew I was having vision issues and it progressed very quickly. I was reading a pharmacology reference and found out about that med and stopped it immediately. Wow, Delane. All right. Yeah, that would be bad. Once again, if you are watching and have got in late, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't hesitate to do that. Be with the cool kids and give this video a thumbs up. Helps us with the algorithms. My dad's doing good. In fact, I spoke to him right before the show started for about 10 to 12 minutes. He's doing well. He had a friend of ours. Is she kind of a relation? Is she kind of relation? I think a relative of ours. I think she's a relative. Came over to see him this evening, which he enjoyed. She stopped in for a few minutes. And so I talked to him just to see how he was doing. He's doing good. And then the last part I want to talk about before we get to the true crime items, missing persons items, and news stories, etc., is that the death of Betty White. I have to admit, I never watched The Golden Girls or a lot. I never watched, what was it, Rhoda. Rhoda was kind of a little before my time. And then as far as The Golden Girls, it just was not what I would say to be cool to be a teenage boy watching the Golden Girls. So I never watched it. But Betty White, when I think of Betty White, I think of one of my favorite, and maybe my favorite game show of all time, Match Game, which they play all the time on the Buzzer TV channel. Reruns going back to 1970. The best ones are 1974 through 1978. The ones after that, by that time, Match Game started to be overtaken by Wheel of Fortune is when that started happening. Jeopardy, Family Feud. They started getting more popular and kind of put Match Game, off. Price is Right. But from 1974 to 1978, any of those Match Game episodes, I can watch them all the time. All the time. And Betty White was a contestant on there. She always sat in that bottom right-hand seat, like the last celebrity who would have to match up the answer to the contestant, whatever the contestant's answer. And she was always so good, always so funny. And, um, even at that time in like 1975, I wouldn't necessarily, of course, the fashions and things have changed and everything. You wouldn't have guessed in looking at her in 1975 that she would live for another 46 years, or, 47, 46, 47 years, given that I think my perception is that she looked a little older for her age at the time. Of course, she was, 99 minus 46. She was 53, which means she was only a couple years older than I was when she was doing that game show. She looks, I think, a lot older than that, than I do now. But that's what I think of when I think of Betty White. She was always so good. And then there were times when she would be on the program and her husband, Alan Ludden, would also be on the panel. She would be in the bottom right-hand corner. He would be in the top left seat. And it was just so good. And of course, here she was. She did this interview about, what does it take to get to 100, because I think her birthday was going to come sometime here in January. And so they were asking her, what does it take to be 100? And she did that interview, and she literally died 2 days after that. And that's just how sudden things can be sometimes. Here they were interviewing her. She's certainly going to make it to 100. If she made it this far, she's going to make it to 100. But when you get to be that age, I know we're supposed to think that no matter your age, every day is a blessing. But when you get to 99, every day, every hour is a blessing. And so the passing of Betty White, I think a lot of people remember her for different reasons. I guess it depends on your age and your interest in TV and everything. But I will always remember her from Match Game. Such a great show. Charlotte says, Betty White, she was so wonderful. Jasmine, so sad about Betty. Charlotte, yes, it was so sad. Spleen says, Match Game was awesome, especially Charles Nelson Riley and his one-man show is incredibly funny. Yeah, Charles Nelson Riley. He was good. Charlotte says, I watch the Match Game a lot. It seems like it's on the Buzzer channel all the time. Okay, Kathy, password with Alan Ludden. Kathy, I've watched that in reruns. Haven't really gotten into it too much. Betty White was often on her husband's show. I saw taping of this show while he was still alive. Okay, yeah. Charlotte says, yes, Charles Nelson Riley was so funny. Richard Dawson, too. Yeah, Richard Dawson. Well, I think if you've watched Match Game, you know that Richard Dawson got to host Family Feud because of the work that he did on Match Game. I mean, from the beginning of Match Game, he was on there in that center seat on the bottom, and then he ended up getting the gig hosting Family Feud, which of course he did for then most of the 80s. And there was a time when he was hosting Family Feud and also appearing on Match Game. And then his parting with Match Game, the way I understand it, was a bit ugly. I think so they just had to let him go. And then he ended up hosting Family Feud and did well there. Still popular to this day. All sorts of different hosts over the years. But he did a fantastic job with Family Feud. Charlotte says, my best friend's grandmother lived to be 104. Wow. Becky, The Golden Girls is a funny show. Never watched it. Betty had a great run. So true. Jill says, Golden Girls is iconic. Zara loves Match Game. Spleen, I loved Golden Girls, and she was a great lady off screen. Delane, my granny is 98, and every day that she's here is a blessing, and she's gotten so tired over the past year and a half. Yeah. Kathy says, I love any game having to do with words, trivia, etc. My mom was a huge Jeopardy fan. Me too. My dad's a huge Jeopardy fan, watches every night. That, Family Feud, and Wheel of Fortune. In fact, I think that's I think My dad is certainly in the demographic, I think, for those shows. Charlotte, Richard Dawson was married to Diana Dors at one time. I think I knew that. Wendy says, I'm watching the Golden Girls. Yeah. Okay. So Betty White, iconic. For a performer who, she never was up for an Academy Award or anything like that. But she wasn't, I don't know if she was in many movies or whatever or not. She was just kind of a personality. And she was entertaining, but she was on TV, of course. So there you go. Very sad. And it reminds us, nobody gets out of here alive. Charlotte says, I saw Richard Dawson in Alfred Hitchcock. In Alfred Hitchcock. I don't know what that means, Charlotte. I saw Richard Dawson in Alfred Hitchcock the other night. Okay. That's weird. Okay. Let's move on. Let's move into the, so we got all the personal and pop culture stuff out of the way. Moving on. There was no poll this week. It was an update show. So really not ever sure what to do regarding a poll question. So I just didn't do one. I also did not write a Patreon blog. I think the updates speak for themselves. And also because it was an update episode, there was no newsletter for this month. But don't worry, they'll be back February 1st. But we did have the think tank. And once again, if you would like to become a Patreon member, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. That would certainly help us with that. That would certainly help the financing of the program. But we did talk about some of the updates that were mentioned, some of the insights. And, some of those updates are of disappearances that we've not yet had a chance to talk about in the think tank. Of course, if you don't know, the think tank, as part of the patreon.com part of Unfound, did not start until the beginning of 2019. So any disappearance before that, we've never had a chance to talk about, except for those ones that have been played, the revisitation episodes, like Robin Abrams, like Tom Brown, like very recently, Ashley Kohler. Those are 3 episodes that came out before the think tank got started. But because I re-aired them, new commentary at the end, we in the think tank finally got to talk about those. So there were many updates in this past update episode that still we've not had a chance to talk about in the think tank. So that gives the think tank members a chance to comment on a few of them. And that's what we did. But I'm going to ask all of you a question that I asked all of the think tank members. And you can just type out your opinion here in the live chat as we continue tonight. The question was, in your opinion, I know this is a very, very difficult question, but just to see where all of your minds are, which disappearance that Unfound has covered do you think is going to be solved next? And what I mean by solved is the remains are found, and it's determined whether it was foul play or not, or somebody is charged as a murderer, whatever the situation could be. It could be an accident. It could be a suicide. It could be foul play. But which disappearance? I know there are like 235 of them now. And of course, some of those have been solved. But which one do you think is going to be solved next? And we had a wide array of different answers. I'm not going to reveal any of those answers to you, but it's just interesting to see how all of you think. I know some of these disappearances, even though you've listened to most of Unfound's episodes, if not all of them, I still know that some of these episodes, these disappearances are kind of, certain ones are very special to you. whether it's due to the location, maybe it's near where you used to live or where you live now, or maybe some of you maybe even know somebody in the missing person's family. Of course, that happens. Or maybe you hear about the missing person and it kind of reminds you of yourself, maybe as you are now, or maybe as a teenager or something. I realize that there are certain episodes that speak to some of you in a very, unique way. So that's why I'm giving you an opportunity, if you'd like to take this opportunity, to answer what disappearance do you think is most likely to be solved next? It's a tough question to answer because I think what we know about these disappearances is that many of them get solved out of nowhere. Zoe Campos, who saw that coming? Andrea Bowman, who saw that coming? Crystal Morrison, who saw that coming? Esther Westenbarger, who saw that coming? You just can never tell. And it's this is one of those statements that I make to the guests, is that you should never get down. You never know when something is going to happen. Something important is going to happen. Something good is going to happen. There's going to be a break or something. You never know. That's why you have to keep working. You just never know. I think that's what we've learned. So nobody's answered the question yet. Maybe it's a little difficult. Maybe nobody really, really wants to go on the record, and that's fine if you don't. I can understand you might be a little nervous about that, but still, being that I asked that question of the think tank, I thought it was only fair that I ask it here. Charlotte says, okay, I love Benny in the proposal. I don't think I've ever seen that, Jasmine. Wendy says, I'm trying to say, yeah, Wendy, you were having a little problems with the keyboard there. I'm trying to say that I'm watching the Golden Girls right now. Okay, Wendy. Hopefully you have it on mute. The Alfred Hitchcock Hour. I think I've seen some of those, Charlotte, but I don't remember the one with Richard Dawson. Of course, I remember Richard Dawson from Hogan's Heroes. I remember him from The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger. What else was he in? Those are just some of the things that popped to mind besides Family Feud and Match Game. Valerie says, I love Alfred Hitchcock and Vincent Price. I'm a huge Alfred Hitchcock fan. Jill says, join the think tank where reasonable minds come alive. That is true. We try to keep things reasonable and friendly there, Jill. Patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. Christy says, I think the Toby, the young boy, still missing from the uncle's house. It's a very interesting choice, Christy. Given it's a good choice. I think that's an astute choice. Jasmine, Ronald McNutt. I think Jasmine's hoping that in 2022 we will get some DNA answers with whoever was found in his truck. Jill says Brian Cook from West Virginia. Interesting choice, Jill. Becky says, have you covered Rachel Cook's disappearance from Georgetown, Texas? No, I've not, Becky. If you have any information on it, anybody involved, the family, send me that information, unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. Kathy, I've seen all of the Alfred Hitchcock Hours and Perry Mason's a million times. Not much of a Perry Mason guy, Kathy. I'm not much of like a Matlock. I guess that's kind of the same thing. Not a big fan of those, but Alfred Hitchcock, yes. Screaming says Molly Miller and Colt Haynes. Screaming, I think that's a very interesting choice too, given that there does seem to be some things bubbling there, it seems. MJ says Daniel Robinson. I have to admit, MJ, I know that that's not a disappearance what we've covered. I don't know anything about it, but you may be right. If he's missing, maybe that will be the next one. However, I don't know anything about that disappearance. Maybe that's a disappearance we might want to cover for the program. Something also that I forgot to mention, now I'll mention it later. I'm going to mention it later. I'll leave it to the end. Of course, you know what we do at the end of every live show. We talk about this coming Friday's episode, and I'll just leave it for then. So you continue to work on that question. And I'm going to answer the first question of the night. Let me first of all see. Hold on one second, please. Let me see if I've gotten any more question. I did. Good thing I checked. Judy, if you're watching, I can answer that. Hold on one second, please. Thank you. Let me put that on my agenda. Okay. All right, so we had an additional question. All right, first question of the night that I'm going to answer, and being that Jill is in here, and she's right there commenting right now. Kathy, Daniel Robinson, similar to Jason Landry. Okay, so driving somewhere, car left behind, he's still missing. Okay. MJ says, I just found you tonight. Well, MJ, welcome to the live show. Really happy that you could make some time on your Wednesday evening for the show. Thanks. Jill Ed, 2021 went missing in the desert, Arizona case. The interview room, that's a strange runs, reminds me of Jason Landry. Well, MJ, Unfound Podcast at gmail.com. You send me some information. I'm going to take for granted, is this like a recent disappearance? Is this like Jason Landry's that just happened within the past year or so? Or is it a little older than that? I have to admit, I don't know. So allow me to answer Jill's question. And the question is, what is Ed's favorite food besides chicken wings? You know, the funny thing is, Jill, is that chicken wings are a really, I like them a lot, especially, getting to make them now myself and experimenting with sauces is a lot of fun. I have to tell you, though, I don't know if they're my favorite food. If you were to even ask me that, maybe, but it's not an automatic yes. Favorite foods. As some of you who follow me on my personal Facebook page, you know I'm a big fan of steak, although I'm going to be probably cutting back on that for the time being for 2022 because, as all of you know, food prices have gone through the roof. So I'm going to be tightening down the food budget a little bit for the time being. But I'm a huge fan of steak. Also get a lot of, there's the Lane steak, a lot of satisfaction of cooking it myself, getting it, bringing it home, seasoning it, putting it on the George Foreman grill, kind of like medium rare. I get a lot of satisfaction out of that because I've never been a cook at all. My, preparing food is just so opposite of what I've done for so many years. So I've gotten a lot of satisfaction about cooking chicken wings and steak. I like them a lot. But Joe, I have to admit something. Probably my favorite food, and it has to be, I wouldn't just take anything in this category, but you give me a good cheesecake, like a whole whatever cheesecake sizes come in, like what are they like? I could easily eat the thing just right there. Huge cheesecake fan. The problem is that for about the last 10 months, I've been keeping sugar out of my diet quite a bit. So that is not even a possibility. And you just do not even know when I go to Publix and Publix has a good bakery area, the grocery store. They have those cheesecakes there and you do not know how much willpower it takes me to go past there. You don't even know. And of course, cheesecake's not cheap either. Even when we don't have inflation, cheesecake's not cheap. So, and then on top of everything else, I kind of believe as I've gotten older, I've become lactose intolerant at times. So, and I know they make cheesecake without lactose. I think that is a thing. But so I have to watch that too. But if you really get me down right to it, you give me a good cheesecake and it's over. I would be so big. I would be so but there are just some things that are keeping me from that right now. Once again, due to my diet, genetics, because at least my sister is also lactose intolerant. So that's the answer to that. Um, but I like a lot of different foods. I love grapes. I love cherries. Love them. But I am a little bit of a picky eater. There are a lot of things that I won't eat. Like I don't eat macaroni and cheese. I don't eat ketchup. You just probably, if we started, and there's certain things I can't eat due to allergies. Sauerkraut, I can't eat. I love sauerkraut. Can't eat it anymore. I'm allergic to it. Can't eat cantaloupe, honeydew, strawberries. Can't eat any of that due to allergies, food allergies. So, but I really don't think of myself as a picky eater. Maybe I am. That is my answer. Sharon says, the deaf woman, Lonine Rogers, I listened to today. It seems pretty obvious, but I don't have a clue where the remains are. Yeah. Yeah, that's as time passes, that's not going to get any easier to solve her disappearance, Sharon. But yeah, it does seem pretty obvious as to what happened. But the other part of it, tough. Valerie says, Tammy Leppert, I really want to know what happened. Valerie, I have to say that I'm fairly convinced that guy that she was friends with, I got to believe he did something to her, but maybe not. Could have been something else, but that's where I've leaned. Screaming says, oh, cheesecake. Charlotte, I love cheesecake. Screaming, I love cheesecake. We're all in the same club. Jasmine, yes, I'm a huge steak fan, and I would pay for it no matter what the cost. Well, if I hit Powerball, and I'm not playing Powerball tonight because simply I just didn't have any, you have to pay for a ticket with cash. And I'm not a cash guy, so I just don't have any cash, and I wasn't going to go to the ATM for that. So I don't have a ticket for Powerball tonight, but my brother does. So I'm hoping he wins and maybe gives me just a little piece. And then I'd probably eat cheesecake all the time. Cheesecake has always been my favorite dessert, yet tacos, Becky says, not a big taco guy. The Lane red velvet cake is so spectacular too. The real says gluten-free, lactose-free, low-fat, plant-based cheesecake sounds good. That sounds disgusting, the real. Charlotte, do I like chocolate? I do, but I can't eat it anymore, Charlotte, just because of the sugar. I've grown to like dark chocolate, which, of course, is supposed to be better for you. I've developed a taste for it after a long. There was a time when I thought dark chocolate was disgusting. Now it's pretty good. So I just really don't eat regular chocolate anymore, but I love it. Love it. Screaming says, I do not eat mac and cheese either, Ed. Haven't since I was 6 years old and didn't like it then. Me neither, Screaming. We might be the only two people on this earth who don't eat mac and cheese. I mean, that's usually something kids and adults go crazy for. Not me. I think it's nasty. That's red cake. Who do I think is the next person to be found? Because MJ, because of my position, I'm going to have to decline from answering that. I know that may not seem fair, but I don't like to play favorites. So, I'm just going to shy away from that. I think all of the answers that I've seen so far could make sense. I think those are some astute guesses. That's all I can say. Molly Miller, Cold Haynes, yes, and Charlotte loves mac and cheese. All right, so that's the answer to that. All right, let's get back to some of these items, and I'll come back to a couple other questions later. Unfound Now. I hope you got to watch it. I had thought about covering Heidi Plank's disappearance in December, but I figured, or in November, but I thought, you know what, I'll give it an additional month, see what happens, and maybe they will find her alive or deceased, because there did seem to be some things going on. But once it got to around Christmas and there'd been no new developments, that's why I decided to make her disappearance the Unfound Now for December of 2021. I suppose I do a little more theorizing on Unfound Now than I do on the regular Friday episodes. But, I got to tell you, that does not feel like a foul play disappearance to me at all. I know a lot has been made about her boyfriend and the business and, all these things. And some other YouTube channel host went down there and talked to somebody, told some crazy story. I don't believe any of it. But, I will stick to what I kind of said in the episode from last Friday, although it maybe had to read between the lines. It would not shock me that if she went to downtown LA, was totally out of her mind, was thinking about committed suicide, went up to the 28th floor of that condo building thinking she was going to jump off, figured out she couldn't jump off because she couldn't get into any of the condos, and so she decided to go down the trash chute. That would not be crazy in the missing persons world. It sounds crazy out there in the public for people who don't follow these types of things. But in our world, for those of you who listen to Unfound every week and take an interest in disappearances and study them, that is not a crazy scenario. And in fact, I'm thinking that's what the police think happened, being that they went up to that landfill so far away from LA to see if they can find her. That must be their theory too. But all this stuff about the parties and strippers and fentanyl-laced cocaine or whatever it was, it just sounds too crazy. This is going back to the Brian Laundrie thing where, he's seen here in Florida, but then some people who were up on the Appalachian Trail said, yeah, we saw him. Yeah, we did. Oh, I know it was him. It wasn't him. So with Heidi Plank, she had a history of strange behavior, saying weird things, doing weird things. And I think this was just a continuation of that, really. So we'll see. Will it be solved? You'd think it would be, being they seemingly have a video and the car and the dog and all these things. But Missy Beaver's murder in Texas, you'd think it would be solved by now. It's not. So, in my opinion, there's no foul play in this disappearance at all. At all. Screaming says, be back in 5 minutes. Okay, Screaming. You do what you got to do for those 5 minutes. Delane, yeah, I think she lost her grip on reality and is deceased. Becky, as a dog owner and a depressed person, I cannot see her leaving her dog alone. Well, Becky, I'm sorry to hear that you fight depression. Sorry to hear that. But what I would say, Becky, is I'm no doctor or anything, but it seems to me that Heidi Plank was going through something a little more, complicated than depression. Of course, depression can lead to other issues if untreated, and I know that, but I don't think Heidi Plank's issue was depression. I think that she had she didn't have a solid grip on reality at times. And it very well could be, we must be open to the idea, Becky, that it very well may be at the time she was thinking all this, her dog might have looked like a dragon to her. This is why it's tough for us out here to try to apply logic to a seemingly illogical situation. How does a woman disappear in a condo or near a condo or how does she disappear and her dog is found on the 28th floor? How does that happen? It seems illogical, but we know it happened. It happened. So how do we apply any sort of logic to all of that? Well, the reason it's tough to do is because in Heidi's case, she might not have been acting logically. To her, she was acting logically, but she, was shown, she didn't have a firm grip on reality. And my perception is that it came and went from day to day. So I get what you're saying. Logically, yes, you cannot see somebody you're leaving her dog alone. But I'm inclined to believe that she was not in a logical state. Delane, and they have body in Missy's case, yet nowhere close to being solved. Yep. At least as far as we know, Delane. I mean, maybe they'll announce who the murderer is tomorrow. But I think everybody who followed this at the time, of course, Missy Beaver's murder got a lot of attention all over the United States. I think most people would have said, well, it'll surely be solved. It would be solved by the time 2022 came around, and it wasn't. And it hasn't been. So Heidi Plank, certainly a unique disappearance. Certainly. I think that we have a few disappearances that are like Heidi's as far as the missing person's mental state at the time. You might look at a Renee LaManna, who went missing from Ocean City, New Jersey. What was it? 1994, I think it was. Certainly, you could maybe put her and Heidi in the same category. And then maybe there are a few others as well. Okay. I've already talked about there being no newsletter this month and the reasons. No blog, Patreon blog either, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. But I do want to move on to this. It never fails that I do an update episode. And then right after the update episode comes out, either a news story comes out or there's some new revelation. And it very well could be, I'm going to admit that I might have missed this in trying to look at all of Unfound's disappearances. And that has to do with Rachel Sierks, a disappearance we covered in 2021. Her mother was Mary Chabot was on the program. But there was a very high quality, and what I mean by high quality, very detailed names, times, dates. You could get, in reading the article, you could get a really firm grasp on the series of events regarding Rachel's disappearance. And you know how much I like that. And you also know how much I criticize so many disappearance stories that are done in media, whether at the time of the disappearance or a year later, and they basically tell you nothing. They don't say who the last person was to see the missing person. They don't say if the missing person was headed somewhere. Nothing. They don't talk about cell phone information, nothing, usually. But I found this article. It was at inforum.com, inforum.com. I found this article to be a very high quality. I thought the reporter did a spectacular job interviewing Mary and really focusing in on Brad, Rachel's man, who, she picked up from jail, and then all of a sudden she goes missing. And they had domestic violence problems. Well, Brad is mentioned in the article, and it's a really good article. So I hope you will find it at inforum, inforum.com. So there seems to be something going on there. And the investigator is also interviewed. I thought he did a nice interview. And it's finally nice to see something like that. And this is a disappearance. It doesn't seem to have been a lot of breaks in that disappearance since Rachel went missing. So If I could go back, I would add that into the update episode that came out last Friday. If you're wondering, Rachel Sirks, that's Cyricaks, and that is a disappearance that we covered in the second half of 2021. Delane, and they have a bot. Yeah, okay. So nobody's going. All right. So I already read that. So Rachel Sirks news came out of nowhere. Let's go to another question. Charlotte, I know you're in here, Charlotte, right? Charlotte, there you are, Charlotte. Charlotte asks, I have a question. She emailed me this. Thank you, Charlotte. I have a question for tonight. What do you think is the reason why some police departments are so mean and rude to the families of the missing? There's no doubt, Charlotte, that happens. All right. But when I say that, what I mean is that in any sort of business that we've been employed in or any interaction we've ever had with anybody, we know that sometimes we get treated rudely, and maybe we can even admit that we've treated people rudely too. You just catch us on the wrong day at the wrong time and everything else. And none of us are robots or computers or machines. We're people with emotions. We're people who rarely is everything going absolutely 100% correctly in our lives. And sometimes we displace our anger. You know, we don't like how our child's doing in school, so we take it out on a coworker. It happens. It's very human. It's not the right thing to do. I don't know if it's necessarily immoral or anything, but it's certainly not the right thing to do. So I'm willing to, Charlotte, I am open to that being at least a part of it. Simply because police officers and investigators and detectives and police chiefs are humans too. They make mistakes. Some of them are corrupt. Some of them don't know what they're doing and know it. Some of them don't know what they're doing. You know, they don't know what they're doing, but they think they know what they're doing. There's a lot of that. I also have to qualify this, Charlotte, that, you know, we aren't there. I know that's what the guests say, and I'm sure a lot of them are telling the truth. But also maybe that's the way the police is coming. The police are coming across because the guest is expecting to get answers, asking questions, not getting any answers. And so that's why they think that the police departments are mean and rude, because they don't have any answers. And it very well may be that the police department's just telling the truth. And there's no good way for an investigator to tell the mother of a missing child, you know what? We just have nothing right now. You know, and it's been, you know, a few years and there's been no breaks, and there's no nice way to say that. There's no nice way. So that is interpreted as being mean. Now, I will admit, a lot of these police departments aren't doing anything. Mainly because they don't know what to do. Mainly. It's not necessarily that they're lazy. They just don't know what to do. They don't understand the situations. They're not used to having a disappearance that's 10 years old on their docket that's still unsolved, and a family comes in, or calls every day or comes in every month. They're not used to that. So there's that. So Charlotte, we have to, we can't look at this in a perfect world. We have to look at this in the real world and realize that everybody that's doing all of this, they're all humans. Now, having said all of that, Are there departments that treat guests rude just because they're being idiots? Absolutely. Absolutely. And this could come from them just being bad people. It's certainly a choice. There's bad people in every walk of life, from nuns to dentists to teachers to engineers and everything else. Once again, it's part of being human. Some people are just that way. And I think a lot of it comes from insecurity. Nobody likes their shortcomings and their lack of knowledge and their ignorance and everything to be pointed out. When a family keeps calling and keeps coming in and saying, "What's going on with my missing daughter's investigation?" Nothing. A month later, "What's going on with my missing daughter's investigation?" Nothing. "What's going on with my missing daughter's investigation?" Nothing. And at some point, as a human in a position where it is your responsibility, um, I don't think it's crazy to think that people lash out because what the investigator feels is, well, all this person is doing is illustrating how I'm not getting my job done. And the person's right. The family member is right. So it's a lot of things put together, I guess is what I'm saying, Charlotte. And this is why I continue to say that Unfound is not a pro-police program. It is not an anti-police program. I know all the political stuff that's been going on with police departments and everything over the last few years and everything else, and I'm not getting into any of that. I have a very, I concentrate on a very small part of what police departments are supposed to be doing. And my belief is that police departments, police investigators, and everyone else involved in that profession, they all probably wouldn't be as mean if they knew more. If they understood disappearances more. I think that would, you're not going to change the hardcore people who are just a-holes. But for people who really want to learn, but haven't been given the opportunity to learn about disappearances and what goes on and the statistics and everything else, I think that would play a huge role in bringing the drama down of it, bringing the emotions down on it. Being able to, I think one of the problems, Charlotte, is that because these investigators don't really understand disappearances, they can't talk to the families in an intelligent way. That's one of the problems. It'd be no different if you went to your dentist, but the dentist didn't have any dental knowledge. He was a fake. And you're sitting in the chair and you're back like this, and the dentist is a fake, and he's trying to explain to you what's wrong with your teeth. And it just doesn't sound right. And, an assistant is taking x-rays and the doctor's looking at them and he doesn't know what he's looking at. This is kind of what goes on with disappearances now. It's no wonder that people get frustrated. So, but I think a lot of education would change some of this. Not going to make it go away, but it would certainly reduce it. Valerie, question. Do you remember Count Cool Rider from Vegas? He had a show on public TV. I do not remember that, Valerie. Although I will have to say, I don't think I ever watched any public TV while I was in Las Vegas. Leanne, if I had wished, the two I would love to see solved are Jason Landry and Daniel Robinson. Similar. There we go. Daniel Robinson again. I guess I'm going to have to read up on this. MJ, perception also plays a part. Emotions are high. Yeah. With the question, what do you think is the reason why some police departments are so mean and rude to the families of the missing? It's emotions are running high as anything could be in life. As high as anything could be in life. And that's why to make sense of the situation, and bring it to a logical, rational level, somebody actually has to know something, not actually know necessarily anything about the disappearance. It very well may be that there's no facts. There's very few facts and nothing can be deduced. That's certainly possible. We've certainly covered a lot of disappearances like that. But what I mean, get it to a point where it can logically be talked about from an educated point of view, even if there aren't a lot of facts. So that would change it, but just not a lot of people. That's why I'm trying to get into schools and talking to students and just doing as much as I can as one human. Charlotte says, I understand, Ed. Most of them do seem to want to help. It's just a few that don't, I guess. Well, Charlotte, the issue is that to be able to help, you have to know what you're doing. You have to know what you're doing and you have to take it seriously. And it has to be something that is a dedication. You know, going back to the dentist example, I certainly would love to help a person fix his or her teeth. Would love to. But outside of me just giving that person money to get their teeth fixed or whatever, I have no dentistry skills. So no matter how much I want to help the person get their teeth fixed, I have no skills to do that. So, you know, wanting to help certainly counts for something, but the knowledge has to go along with it. Leanne says Daniel Robinson went missing in June of 2021. Thank you, Leanne. Cooking is fun, especially on a grill. The only grill I have is a George Foreman grill, and I think people would say that's a fake grill. Screaming $5 contribution. Thank you, Screaming. Thank you. You're very kind. Good to see you. MJ, Leanne must be behind. Hey, any question can be answered at any time, Leanne. You just cooking is fun. That's fine, Leanne. If you want to get in on that, totally fine. You go at your own pace, Leanne. You do what you feels right. And I think MJ think that well, we're not going to get into that, Leanne. Okay, so that's my answer. I know it's a very nuanced answer, Charlotte. It would very, very easy for me to just completely go off it. The answer to that is somewhere in the middle. I think there's a perception issue. There's an education issue. There's a dedication issue. And eventually it all adds up. Let's move on to, I just want to throw this out there. Being that we are talking about Daniel Robinson, a disappearance that just does not come to mind right off the top of my head. Whether you're watching this live on January 5th, you're watching this in the rerun sometime, if you are part of a missing person's family, if you've had a brother, sister, family member, whoever go missing, I'd love to talk to you. I talk to anybody. Now, it may very well be I don't know what we can do and everything, but I will talk to anybody about a missing persons case. Family member, of course, not going to talk to any psychics or anything, but if you're a family member, you have a loved one who's gone missing, please contact me. I don't know if I really say that enough on this live show, but I will talk to just about anyone. And so I'm going to remember to do that on these live shows for 2022 because I realize these live shows are seen quite a bit. And if you are somebody who knows a missing family, missing person's family member, and that disappearance has not been on Unfound yet, tell the person to give me a call or email me. I'm not going to give up my phone number on here, but email me, unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. However, on the other hand, do not just send me a list of disappearances you'd like to see on the program. Don't do that. But if you know somebody, personally know somebody who is hurting right now, and you think that Unfound could help that person, Send them my way. Just do it. Say, hey, I know this guy does a live show, does a good program, helps people, knowledgeable, and I will gladly talk to the person and try to help the person out. Once again, I just don't think that I say that enough. And in fact, I might just start putting that in every episode at some point. All right. Moving on. Let me see here. Caring is one thing, but knowledge and action solves the crimes. It's true. Ben J. Leon, definitely strange. His Jeep being started over 40 times before being wrecked is puzzling for sure. See the one in the desert? Can I contact Daniel's father and see if he would join you? I'll certainly talk to Daniel's father for sure, MJ. Just have to remember, being that the disappearance isn't quite a year old yet, we could not make it an official Friday episode. However, I might be able to give him some pointers and help and see where, things need to go from wherever they are right now. For sure. Like I said, I'll talk to anybody. There's just certain rules that we have for the Friday episodes. And in addition, being that this was like 6 months ago, it's getting a little long to be on an Unfound now as well. So, but if he wants to contact me, email me, I'll give it my best shot. Yeah, please hit the thumbs up button. Thank you, Screaming. You're welcome, MJ. Moving on. I think did I talk about this during the update? There were so many updates. And of course, this update episode was not as long as the one before. That's just how it works out sometimes. But coming up on January 11th, it's a new show that is on Discovery Plus, and it's called Murder Under the Friday Night Lights. And so these are crimes, mysteries associated with high school football, the fall time, at least here in the United States. And on January 11th, they are going to be releasing their episode on the death of Tom Brown. It's going to be on Discovery Plus. Maybe some of you get it. I guess that means that it will not be like on regular TV, which is like what I have. So I don't know how I'm going to get to watch it. We'll figure something out. Or no. But that episode is coming out. So January 11th is next Tuesday. I think it's just an hour long. So I don't know how much they're going to be able to cover in that time. All I know is that I helped them quite a bit with this episode. I don't know. The guy who I've been talking to emailed me back not long before I came on the air tonight. I didn't have a chance to write back to him yet. And he gave me some information about a little bit of information, what's going to be in the episode. And I don't know if I'm really allowed to air that. But this is a correspondence that started happening maybe last summer, maybe even before that. He had contacted me because they had known about Tom Brown's death. And they had come across the interview I did with Penny in 2018. And he wanted to see if I had certain materials. But we've had a couple phone conversations, and I made sure that he understood. And by that point, by the time he'd already contacted me, they had already done quite a bit of work. But in talking to this guy, the couple times that I did, I wanted to make sure that he understood the lay of the land, regarding all of this and the conspiracy theories and the cliques and everything else. And, everything that has gone on. And certainly that disappearance has had a lot of drama. I don't know necessarily to this point if it's had as much drama as Brian Schaefer's has, but Brian Schaefer's disappearance is 15 years old and Tom's is only 5 years old. But there's been a lot of drama with Tom's death, and I wanted to make sure that this guy understood what was going on there. And I told him that I've tried to stay out of all of it. And I sent him quite a bit of material. I sent him all the video that I had, all that security video that I analyzed way back in 2018. And I don't know if it's going to be in the final cut or not, but I gave them quite a bit of the notes, just things that I had collected, my insights about the entire thing, just not just from specifically covering Tom's case as Unfound did, but just in general, just general disappearance knowledge and everything. So I don't know what this episode's going to be like. I think we can all admit that if it's just going to be an hour long, I mean, really, how can you cover Tom Brown's disappearance in an hour? And it's really not even an hour. It's does Discovery Plus have commercials? I don't even know. But it's probably not a full hour. Sounds pretty difficult, to cover his disappearance, everything that's gone on. But they're going to give it a shot, and it will be January 11th. But once again, I'm talking to you about it because behind the scenes, I did provide them with some material that may end up in this episode. Am I going to get some credit or anything? I have no idea. I certainly, they didn't record anything that I said that could be played. They didn't interview me in any way, so that would not be part of it. So if anything, maybe Unfound or my name will get in the credits, right there at the end. If they don't even do that, that's fine too. I'm not really concerned about that. So we'll see how it comes out. He did give me a list of people who they did talk to, who I think are included on screen in the episode. We'll just have to see. I don't know if it's going to break any new ground or not. But we'll be watching for that. I don't know if I'm going to get to watch it simply because I know I don't have Discovery Plus. But if any of you do and do get to watch it, maybe you can start looking on your DVR right now to make sure you record it next week so you don't forget. If you do get to watch it, I would certainly love to hear your opinions on it. Certainly. For sure. Just to see, how good you think it was and everything else. Charlotte says, my brother Chad is in the hospital with COVID and he's in very bad shape. He will be 53 in February. Wow, Charlotte. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, sorry to hear that, Charlotte. One of my best friends from college just got COVID within the past week or two. He's doing fine. He said that his sense of taste did change, and he's had some sniffles and generally very lethargic, very tired, but no lung stuff or anything like that. So I think he's going to be fortunately just fine. But Charlotte, he's my age. It's just such a weird, all of the whether it was the original Delta, Omicron, Omega, Alpha, whatever, seems like a very unique type of virus that you could almost believe, I'm not here to go to conspiracy land, but you could almost believe it has something to do with your genetics, whether the virus really, really hits you hard or you get it and you just have no feeling of it at all. As I was telling my dad tonight, of course, my dad had it, but way back in 2020, October of 2020, of course, he was 83 at the time. And for a month, he was just laid out. Just didn't want to do anything, couldn't do anything. He went to the hospital. They said, there's nothing we can do for you. So they sent him home. Drink plenty of fluids. Don't do anything. Lie in bed. Good luck to you. Of course, he's still around. But we know of other people who are like half my dad's age who have died from it. Jasmine says $4.99 or $6.99 a month without ads, Ed, for Discovery Plus. Jasmine, thank you for looking into that. I got to tell you, I already have Netflix. I already have Disney Plus. So I will not be getting another channel just to watch one episode of something. So once again, if somebody could, if they have it, whether you're watching here live or after in the rerun, if you could DVR it and watch it whenever it comes out, that would be appreciated, and give me maybe a general synopsis of it. Charlotte says he has COPD. Wow. He has COPD at 53, Charlotte, or 52. Wow. Brian Hinton, the disappearance, Brian says, the disappearance of Ali Lawitzer. I thought the house in the corner where the bus dropped her off should be investigated if it hasn't already. It's one of those things, Brian, that, of course I wasn't there at the time. All we can do is take for granted that the police eventually, maybe not that day, but eventually did speak to everybody in the neighborhood. Now, how we would go finding that out, I suppose we could find a FOIA, but there's no guarantee that information would even be in a FOIA. You just don't know. Just one of those things we have to take on faith. Certainly a possibility. I don't know the criminal histories of anybody in that neighborhood. Certainly could go back and see who was living in every house at the time. And it very well may be that everybody who was living in their houses back when Ali went missing still live in those houses today. But I'm just going to take for granted that whoever there was interviewed, and maybe they're a suspect and we just don't know about it. However, I would say on the other hand, Brian, if they suspected somebody in the neighborhood like that, I have to believe they wouldn't have gone the whole way to Ohio to try to find Ali. Maybe, though. Maybe they just don't know what they're doing, which is always a possibility. Charlotte says, yes, he was a painter for years, and I think that affected his lungs. Wow. Charlotte, sorry to hear that. His age is an advantage, Charlotte. It's much better that he's 52 instead of 72. So just got to hope for the best. Can't imagine it. Let me, we got about a half hour left. Let's answer another question. And this comes from Judy. I think it was Judy. Is that her name? Judy. It may be too late, or you may have already answered this, but do you have a theory on why Brian Schaefer snuck his phone? I love the word snuck. Snuck his phone into the woman's bag. How does that correlate with his disappearance? Judy asks. Judy, if you're out there, if we're watching live here or going to watch in the replay, I would tell you under normal circumstances, this is something that I would dismiss. The problem is that you can see the video, and I can tell you that, let's just say a law enforcement officer who has appeared on the program has also watched the video and come to the same conclusion that I have, that he did put something in her purse. So, and usually you go, well, that just sounds crazy. Why would he be reaching behind her and sneaking some? First of all, it doesn't make any sense if it's her phone, because why not just, here's your phone back? Did she not know that he took it? And then we start thinking, well, how did he take it? How did he sneak it out of her bag in the first place? What was he doing with it? Why did he put it back? Now, there was talk that, yes, did she put his number in her phone or whatever else? I still don't think that really answers, can explain all of this away. The reason though, but when you look at something like that, you never look at it in a vacuum. You have to look at it. Okay, if you believe that happened, is there anything else that we know about that disappearance then that would seem to go along with that? And the answer is yes. I'm not an expert on the disappearance. Kelly Bruce is, but she says that there is. And if I can speak for her, I'm once again not the expert. She said that what sticks out to her is that, after 2 a.m. on that morning, Brian's phone continued to ping in the area of the Ugly Tuna Saloona. Well, who lived near the Ugly Tuna Saloona? Much closer to the Ugly Tuna Saloona than Brian did. That young woman with her purse. All right, so there's that. On top of that, we know this ping or whatever that, the phone company eventually said, it must be a mistake or some flub up in the computer system. But that ping came from a certain city outside of Columbus. Who happened to live in that city? This young woman's mother. Could be totally coincidence. Could be. But you could then foresee a scenario, and I described this, I think, when I did that video back on November 29th, that still is up here right on for everybody to see. It has like 2,000 some views now. That you could see a scenario where that is his phone. He slips because he's planning to run away or do whatever else, slips his phone into her purse. Boop, like you see it. Boop, as he put his arm. And then what happens is she doesn't know it. She goes home. She doesn't clean out her purse. She admits she was really drunk that night anyway. She gets up the next day doing her thing, and the purse is sitting there and the phone's in it. And that's why it continues to ping in the area. And then finally the battery dies. And the way I understand women is that we have you may have a multitude of purses for different occasions. And that may be the purse that she only uses when she goes out to clubs. I don't know. Just say. And that's not crazy. So she doesn't use that purse for a while. And all the while, Brian's phone's sitting in that purse. It's dead, though. That's why it stopped pinging. So then she has this purse. She's going out. So then a few days later, whenever it was later, she's going out somewhere and she decides to use that purse again. Meanwhile, it's phone. We have to remember this is in 2006 term phones, not 2021, where phones are this big. It's a little flip phone or something like that. It's like this big and it's folded. It's down there in a corner of her purse, and she's not looking for it anyway, and it weighs nothing compared to one of these. And she has other stuff. She goes to her mother's, and for some reason, she starts going through, I was looking for something in my purse, and she comes across this phone. And of course, by this time, she knows that Brian's missing, surely. And she's looking at this phone and she's saying, whose phone's this? This isn't my phone. I've never had a phone like this, but it's dead. And so she can't just open it and see all the names and everything else. She has to plug it in. And most phones, as we know, have universal chargers. So I'm sure she had a charger right there that would fit it. Or she went and got one. Whatever. She plugs it in. Takes a few seconds to warm up, to get the battery juiced up. Finally comes on. She turns it on, and dang it, it's Brian Schaefer's phone. But she knows he's missing. And she starts thinking, I have Brian's phone. I don't know what happened to him, but how am I going to explain that I've had his phone for all this time and never brought it forward? Now, I know all of us, because we're interested in disappearances, we would surely turn it in. But I can tell you from my experience of 235 disappearances is that I don't think that that's as common a thought in the general public. A lot of people want to avoid the limelight. A lot of people want to avoid controversy, unless you're some, Instagram person that needs a lot of hits and things like that, and you want to do something stupid or whatever else. But generally, people, certainly when it comes to a disappearance, it might have been a murder and all these things, they want to avoid that. And being that she knows that she didn't have anything to do with Brian's disappearance and she can't remember, probably she's drunk, she can't remember that night or anything. She doesn't know how the phone got in there. She doesn't know this video exists. And she just wants to make it go away. And this is, to me, this is not a crazy series of events. Also because, as you've heard in many interviews that I've done on the program, where we thought friends who surely had nothing to do with the disappearance would be helpful, and they don't even talk to their friend's family anymore. Common. So certainly then it is not crazy to believe that this young woman found this phone in her purse days later, weeks later, months later, turned it on, found it as Brian's phone and said, I'm making this thing disappear. So, Judy, that's my answer. I could be totally wrong. It just, those series of events, it fits with a few facts and it goes along with some of the understanding I have regarding disappearances. It also doesn't make any sense to me why he would slip her phone back to her, into her purse, unless he stole it in the first place. But I don't know why we'd do that. I don't know. Why not just hand it back to her? Why steal it in the first place? What was he doing? I would add that it would, before you start saying, well, that's not as crazy. Well, certainly isn't as crazy, but here's what I know she never did. After the fact, she never looked at her own phone and said, how did Brian Schaefer's phone number get in my phone? Did somebody call? Did Brian use my phone or something? She's never said that either. So either way you look at it, maybe this young woman is not, acted totally on the up and up. Can't track him. Yeah, I mean, if he gives his phone to somebody else, you can't track him. The phone pings, not the person. MJ says, you have a case that I can't let go, like you can't stop thinking about. MJ, I really don't think, I know that that's maybe a common question that other podcast hosts happily answer. I just really don't think of the episodes that way. I think about all of them. I know that seems impossible, 235 disappearances, but I see the pictures of every missing person we've covered on Unfound every day when I go through that computer. So they're always on my mind, all of them. That describes me and multiple persons exactly. Makes perfect sense. Yeah, I just don't like knowing it. You wouldn't think as a single guy I would know about that much about women and their purses, but I do. Go figure. Charlotte, but she could have just dropped it off anonymously to the police station or something like that, Charlotte. She could have. She could have. A lot of people could have done a lot of things on a lot of these disappearances, people who had nothing to do with the disappearance, but they didn't. So, and you should remember, and I'm a guy who really doesn't believe that Brian Schaefer walked out of his life. But you could say, if that's what happened, that he did drop his phone off in her purse, then I think that then would lend more credibility that he did. Even though I don't believe that, I'm trying to look at all of this as objectively as possible. Have you ever done investigations on Joe Grizel? I'd love to see his family, have more information. That is a name that is not, once again, like Daniel Robinson. Joe Grizel, not familiar to me. So once again, if you'd like to email me any information, unfoundpodcast@gmail.com, I will take a look at all of it. All right, a couple more things. Speaking of, for those of you that believe Brian Schaefer did walk off and change his identity, I have a story for you. So that's my answer, by the way, Judy. Thank you for the question. I'm going to read this to you. A Brazilian man working as a flight attendant for United Airlines posed as a dead Atlanta boy for 2 decades, federal prosecutors said. Ricardo Cesar Guedes, 49, is accused of stealing the identity of William Erickson Ladd, an Atlanta boy who died in a Washington State car crash in 1979. Ricardo did this to apply for a U.S. passport in 1998 and renewed it 6 times through 2020, according to the federal complaint. Guedes, a native of Sao Paulo, Brazil, then used the dead boy's name while getting married and taking out a mortgage in Houston, according to the complaint, which lists his occupation as a flight attendant for United Airlines. Investigators allegedly uncovered Guedes' real identity by comparing fingerprints he submitted for his Brazilian national identity document in the 1990s. He was arrested at George Bush International Airport, which is in Houston, in September when he entered a secure crew member area while using the dead boy's identity after various fraud indicators got his passport flagged, the complaint states. Ladd's mother, Deborah Lynn Hayes, confirmed her son died to State Department investigators last July, according to the complaint, charging Guedes with aggravated identity theft, making false statements on a passport application, and other counts. Hayes did not recognize the Social Security number issued to Guedes in North Carolina in the name of William Erickson Ladd some 17 years after her son died, the complaint states. Guedes allegedly took 40 trips for United Airlines in 2020 while using Ladd's name. He remains detained pending trial. A United Airlines spokesman confirmed Guedes' prior employment, but said he was no longer working for the company. United has a thorough verification process for new employees that complies with federal legal requirements, the spokesperson said. An attorney for Guedes declined to comment on the allegations Tuesday. The Diplomatic Security Service, the law enforcement arm of the State Department, investigates roughly 5,000 passport fraud cases per year, according to the Chronicle. Guedes had no prior record, the newspaper reported. When confronted by federal investigators in September 2021, he identified himself as William Erickson Ladd before agents showed him a death certificate for the boy and a photo of his gravesite in Alabama. Guedes then signed a fingerprint sheet using his real name, the newspaper reported. I had a dream, and the dream is over, Guedes reportedly told the arresting agents. Now I have to face reality. The reason I brought this up, of course, is that here's a guy who successfully changed his identity for 20 years and in the United States, and he wasn't even an American citizen. So now how common is this? I mean, what did it say? Investigates 5,000 passport fraud cases per year. I'm sure passport fraud covers a lot of different things. I'm not saying every one of them necessarily is identity theft. But even 5,000 is not a very large number compared to the millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of Americans who have passports. So this is a very rare situation. But it does show you when a person is motivated, and it seems he was motivated because I'm guessing he wanted to stay in the United States. He wanted to be a flight attendant, on and on and on, all these things. That he did this, he was motivated enough to get this done. Now, what I would like to know is how did he even find out about this child's right? You know, it'd be interesting to go back to the time when he decided to do this and him, describe how he went doing this. Was he ever worried about getting caught? Was he almost caught? What are some of the problems? If we're going to talk about some of these disappearances that where some people want to believe the person really did walk off and changed his identity or her identity, like Brian Schaefer, for example, then it would be interesting to talk to somebody who actually accomplished this for a while and what it took. And looking back at it in this guy's case, were there signs at the time that's what he did? It's just investigators just didn't know what they were looking at the time. Just nobody really picked up on it. So this is why I brought up this particular story. It just shows that this can be done, even if you aren't an American citizen, have no history of living here or working here or anything, and you are able even to get a job working for an airline, which it's high security. There's a reason those metal detectors exist, whether we like the TSA or not, that if you can pull it off for 20 years, and going through these high security areas all over the United States all the time, it seems like it would be even more likely to get away with it if you aren't doing something like that with your life. If you're never running into security people or metal detectors and you never have to use a fake passport or anything else. So, just something for all of you to think about. Let's go back. I was reading that for a while. Let's see what everybody had to say. Spleen Cyril, I forgot. You believe he died like he fell in some water, he killed himself. Brian Schaefer, I do believe that. I think there are a lot of signs, Spleen, that Brian was having some emotional issues and other things before he went missing. I mean, showing up for his mother's funeral late. We don't know whatever happened to that check that he was supposed to give Ohio State for his education. He might have felt, he was going on this trip with this woman where they boyfriend and girlfriend. Opinions differ. Maybe might have felt like he was painted into a corner regarding that. Marlene, there you, Marlene. I was just thinking, where is Marlene? And there she is. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. I need new headphones. Good to see you, Marlene. Sabrosa, love your analysis on missing persons. Always based on sound reasoning. Yeah, I guess some people would sometimes say that I'm a little too logical, Sabrosa, but I appreciate that. Marlene, well, we missed you too, Marlene. Happy New Year. Hi, Marlene. Yep. On Texas, dropping his phone into the woman's purse has changed my opinion. I think more likely than not, he walked out of his life. On Texas, totally logical assessment by you. Totally logical. That doesn't mean it happened, but it's certainly, I think, once again, the way we think we understand disappearances is that seeing something like that could then lead us to believe that it certainly raises the probability. Absolutely. Marlene, hi, Kathy. Ice cream. Everybody's no COVID, the cold, hubby, and all. I couldn't do birthday last week. Marlene's going through her whole week there. Thank you, Marlene. Yeah. Happy belated birthday, Marlene. Okay. One more story, and then we got 11 minutes, and then we'll call it a night. I want to talk about Harmony Montgomery. This 5-year-old girl from Manchester, New Hampshire, who seemingly went missing over 2 years ago and nobody knew she was missing. As if I need another reason to tell all of you why we rarely cover missing children's disappearances on the program. I think if you go back and look at the disappearances that we've covered on Unfound regarding young children, Kim Norwood and Eileen Marshall, very recently Leanne Hosberg, for example, it's a very particular set of circumstances in which family members could not be seen as the perpetrators, the culprits, the suspects, the killers. And because we have too many stories like this one, released from foster care, back to her father, who was a horrible guy, and somehow she goes missing for over 2 years. Now, how does this happen? Obviously, I mean, let's just put it out there. Obviously, the father did something to her. And this is very common. This is the standard. This is what is usually the case. Children go missing. It's usually the parents that do it. Either together, one of them, a stepfather, a stepmother, a boyfriend, a girlfriend. It's someone like that. But how does this particular situation happen where A little girl is not noticed to be missing for over 2 years. A lot of blame to go around. Of course, the father gets the most blame because he most likely caused this little girl's disappearance. But where was the rest of the family? They know she exists. They surely know that she was released out of the foster home back to the father. Surely this guy could only come up with, oh, she's here, she's there for so long before people should have started to get suspicious. He always has some sort of excuse. Where is Harmony? Oh, she went to a friend's house. Oh, she went to slip over here. Oh, she's with this person. Oh, she's with that. She's never there for anybody else to see her. Certainly, the family has to be partly to blame too. What about friends? Does this guy, her father, not have any friends? Did they not notice that maybe his daughter was around one time and then wasn't around the next? There's some blame there too. And then finally, we have to look at government as well. It's clear that this little girl should have never been given back to her father. It's clear that once she was given back, that nobody ever checked up on anything, never went back to see how things were doing. Unfortunately, I think of course, I don't have any kids or anything, but I think that maybe too often we think of what, a government agency is doing is like not Mr. Mom, but Mrs. Doubtfire. Robin Williams, I'm sorry, I'm going to ruin the movie for you, but he's playing Mrs. Doubtfire, and that woman has to come over, and he's going in and out of character, and she's checking up to see the house is okay, and everything's clean, and the children are being taken care of, and everything else. That's fantasy world. I'm not saying that's not the way real life is. We surely know that by now. And I know it's a very difficult job, very stressful. It's all nothing but bad stories, kind of like what I do in Unfound, but you have to have the stomach for it if you want to do it right. This is the same way doing Unfound. If you cannot handle hearing disappearances and family members, their lives being destroyed and everything, you should go do something else. So you have to have a particular type of temperament to do something like making sure that these children are being taken care of by the, fathers, and making the ups and the downs of whether they should be there or not. And I'm sure that as many issues we have today, sex offenders and everything else, I'm sure there aren't enough counselors and advisors and people who do this work to go around. But 2 years sounds like a stretch to me. 2 years sounds pretty egregious, to use a word. So there's a lot of blame. Of course, it starts with the father. The government didn't cause this little girl to go missing. The friends didn't cause it. The rest of the family didn't. This guy surely did it. And I'm not sure what the rest of these groups could have done to stop it. But surely that it took over 2 years to figure out she was missing is their fault. But this probably, just maybe getting at attention. I'm going to guess this probably happens more than we know. There's Hope says, I don't think you're too logical. Just got in. Hey, there's Hope. Thanks. There's Hope. Thank you. You're welcome, Marlene. There's Hope for change. Thank you for the generous contribution tonight. You're very generous. Thank you so much with the super chat tonight. Thank you. Sabrosa says, it would be interesting to know if that flight attendant is a missing person in his country. Boy, Sabrosa, that's a fantastic question. Sabrosa, I think, we just have to understand that there are many countries that don't keep track of their missing. And even of course, the United States, I don't know how well of a job we do of it. We just seem to do it maybe better than everyone else, but that doesn't mean it's good. I don't think that Brazil or wherever he's from has a name us or anything, but it's an interesting question. Very insightful. Puma, the dad's been arrested for abuse. Hopefully more charges to come. Yeah, hopefully. Marlene says, I will be catching up on this show tomorrow. Yeah, you do that, Marlene. Thank you. Becky, Biomom had lost custody. She had been trying to see her, but wasn't allowed. There's hope. That case makes me sick to my stomach. So many people dropped the ball, including the government. Yeah. Over 2 years. Brian, someone should have physically gone to the house to check her on her, period. Yeah. And not, accept a, yeah, she's out playing with friends. She'll be back later, type of thing, which, Brian, I have to believe that at least once in those 2 years, somebody tried to see her in a position of authority. I got to believe at least once. And they must just have fallen for a lie. Marlene says, I gave the thumbs up. You better, Marlene. So thank you for all that. Okay. So Harmony Montgomery, very sad story. Totally avoidable. All right. This Friday, we get back to our regular episodes, you might call them. We're going to get back to covering a new disappearance this Friday. We're going to Golden Valley, Arizona. There will be a YouTube video for this disappearance. Golden Valley is very close to Kingman, Arizona, where Tyler Stice went missing. We're covering the disappearance of Jordan Carvalho, Carvalho, 30-year-old male, disappeared on September 1st, 2019. So disappearance that's 2 years and 4 months old. His mother, Anita Stevens, is the guest. Did the interview Monday. And the title of the episode is Just One More Thing. And yes, that is a Columbo reference. And I think it's very relevant to this disappearance. Columbo's been on my mind because to start this year, the Sundance Channel had a Columbo marathon, and they played some of the good ones going back to the beginning with, going back early 70s. Robert Culp was the bad guy. Ruth Gordon was the author who killed her niece's husband because Ruth Gordon's thought he killed the niece. The Cassidy guy, David Cassidy's father, is the bad guy in 3 of them. Playing all the good old ones. John Cassavetes is a conductor of an orchestra who's the murderer. So good. Johnny Cash, so good, so good. It's so good. So he's been on my mind. But one of his sayings, it always looked like he was going to be leaving the room and then he'd turn around and say, just one more thing. This is kind of the way I feel about Jordan's disappearance, because for most of the interview, this is going to sound like a disappearance we've heard many times. A young man going through some issues and maybe walked off. Maybe like a Chris Sanders. Maybe, of course, the jury is still out, Jesse Foster and some other disappearances that we've covered where it could be just somebody in distress, not thinking right and walking off. But then there's going to be something that it's hard to explain, given if you think that he really just did walk off. And I'm not going to reveal it here, but it's just one of those things. Just when you think this is a fairly straightforward disappearance, there's just one more thing. And that one thing kind of puts everything into disarray. So that is this Friday. Jordan Carvalho went missing from Golden Valley, Arizona, September 1st, 2019. His mother, Anita Stevens, was the guest, and she is she's a very a lot of energy to Anita. And the title of the episode is Just One More Thing. So what's everybody saying? People are getting out of here. Okay. Sabrosa says, just like you said, a lot of people don't want to get involved and won't say anything. That is pretty much the standard, Sabrosa. Sabrosa, we've all seen those YouTube videos where a woman's getting the crap beat out of her by a boyfriend in some mall, and everybody else is just standing around watching. COVID really hurt so many children being abused. That's true, MJ. On looking forward to when the new case drops on Friday. I always look forward to Friday. Me too. On Texas, new Unfound episodes are the best. You're very kind. That's all I got. What a show. 2 hours. Boom, boom, just like that. Fastest 2 hours on Unfound on YouTube. So that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Once again, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell button so you get alerted when we upload new videos such as this one. And what did we do tonight? I always like to do a recap. What did we do? I talked about my disc golf, of course. New Year's was pretty low-key as always. Went to the eye doctor. Dad's doing good. Betty White died. Rest in peace. No poll this week. Unfound Now. No newsletter. No blog. Rachel Sirks. Maybe some stories there. Some new info. Any of you know possible guests? Please, lead them to me. Tom Brown episode on that TV show next week. We talked about identity theft. We talked about Harmony. Montgomery took questions from Charlotte, Jill, and Judy. And this Friday, the disappearance of Jordan Carvalho. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much. Keep your head on a swivel.